Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. 3 mistakes I see basically every gold/platinum player ever make. Not staying behind your tanks. Using ults for no reason. Don't use Moira's ults on enemies. Coalescence heals your teammates for double the amount of damage it does to enemies. It's not an offensive ult, it's a supportive ult. You're actually meant to hit both teams with it. Because then, you know, you actually get to use both components of it, rather than only one component of it. Efficiency. What should Reinhardt do when the enemy Reinhardt charges at you? I started playing Reinhardt, and usually when the enemy Rein charges at me, I drop my shield, sidestep, and then charge where he hit the wall and pin him, maybe swing once or twice before he dies. It occurred to me that maybe dropping my shield and DPSing isn't the best idea. Should I leave it to the DPS? What should I be doing? So, that's fine if you know that nobody's gonna get pinned behind you when you do that. It's usually better to just countercharge the other Reinhardt when, like, he's pretty close to you, so that basically you're both get knocked down, but you're in your team. So you don't die, and he does die. If you know no one's gonna get pinned behind you, then you can just sidestep and pin him into the wall, and everything's great. The enemy Reinhardt's dead because he did something stupid. Fantastic. But you can't always guarantee that, so basically I just always countercharge the dude, because I'm not prepared to risk someone like the Mercy just walking in and getting pinned, basically. And if you're both knocked down in your team, he should die, and you should live. Theoretically, anyway. Who has successfully converted to arm aim and stuck with it? If your team is losing and you have all golds, you're not necessarily doing well. No, I don't understand. If I have all the gold medals, that means I'm doing the best. I'm the best. You're the best of the worst. What? I don't understand. So apparently I've been playing with a new Widow grapple bug. Some guys and I have found a new way to grapple that allows you to climb small objects without actually using the cooldown. So your CD is refunded, but momentum stays the same. Alright, show us what's up. I'm in the way of the cooldown, but yes, this is indeed not using up the cooldown on the grapple to do that. How about that? Yep, the cooldown. This is, in fact, not using the grapple cooldown at all. That used it. Nope. Okay, so basically, if it's, like, real close to you, it looks like you can do that, and it doesn't use the cooldown. Great. That'll get patched. Don't worry about it. Mind you, I said that about the Mercy super jump, but that's still in the game, isn't it? So, you know, one day, I'm sure, one day it's gonna go. Does healing or damaging 100 HP build more ult charge? As I understand it, that builds the same amount of ult charge, but the heroes require different amounts of charge to get their ultimates. So I think, like, if like Soldier does 100 damage, but Mercy heals 100 damage, they both gain the same amount of charge, but Mercy's ult requires less charge than Soldier's. So she gets more value out of healing 100 health than Soldier did doing the 100 damage. I believe that's how it works. Yeah. Does it work? Let's look at the comments, shall we? I'm sure some smarter man knows. Even if Soldier gained the same percentage of his ultimate as Mercy or whatever, support is healing the damage. One has to consider relative value. They both gain 100 charge, which counts more for Mercy. It's roughly 6.15%. Soldier, 4.85%. Moira's cost is 2,125, so 100 charge would be 471. Oh, look at all those numbers. Jesus Christ. 100 Yeah, so that's how it works. Yeah, okay, alright, fine. Whatever. People use different amounts of charge to get their ultimates is the moral of the story, so it depends. It depends on who did the damage versus who did the healing. But I think basically all support ultimates cost less than the DPS ultimates, but I'm not certain about that one, to be fair. Quick PSA. Ana's Nano Boost has a wind-up time. It doesn't get cast immediately, so if you see a low health target and try to nano them to keep them alive, they can die before they get nanoed. Yes, this can happen. It's an extremely small wind-up, so it's not super likely to happen, but it can happen. Who to main, or kind of one trick? Whoever you want, dude. Tracer, Doomfist, Widowmaker, Moira, Ana. Whichever one you want to play. Who cares? No, don't go to the fucking... Whoever you want. Whoever you like. Play whoever you like. The main reason you suck at main tank video. I know why I suck at main tank. Here you go. Here's a video for you. The main reason you suck... sorry, a little bit more clickbaity than that. The main reason you suck at main tank. There you go. Go peep that if you want. Hacking a Bastion versus farming Emp. Obviously, Bastion is being pocketed, so I don't think it's best idea to try and kill him / her. Should I... Is Bastion a him or a her? Or is it not... Or is it just an it? Does it matter? Like, I don't know if Bastion really has an opinion on the matter. Johnny5 is alive, I think might be Bastion's stance on it. Should I A, hack the Bastion as much as possible to try and keep him in recon mode, or B, try to farm Emp as soon as possible? For simplicity's sake, let's say that this is attack. I mean, you want to farm Emp as quickly as possible as Sombra, regardless, essentially. Yeah, like, the Bastion, hacking Bastion just makes it, he's not doing much for the next 6 seconds, which is really good. So you want to hack the Bastion as much as possible, basically, yes. But you do also want to build Emp as quickly as possible, because that's Sombra's main goal in life, basically, is just to make as many people on the enemy team sad as possible, which basically means building your ult as quickly as possible. So, yes and yes. There you go. A message to bronze players. There is more to 222 than simply having 2 heroes from that category. Yeah, it's all... okay, I'll talk about this one like every other day. People, they don't care if they see Roadhog Zarya, they see 2 tanks, and that's all they care about. Even though that's an awful combination of tanks. They push tab, they see 222, they're happy. They're happy. Please, if I'm Zarya and you see me fully charged, push with me. Yeah, I mean, the Zarya might get you killed, depending on what she's deciding to do. Like, if the Zarya's throwing herself in 1v6, maybe the Zarya's doing something dumb, you know? It's not always that simple, but yes, if Zarya's full charge, Zarya's very scary, so you should try and make it easier for Zarya to be scary, if possible. High-ranking players, what are Zen's priorities in GOATs? I prefer to hear from other GM players on this one. Oh, shit. I guess I'll go fuck myself then, right? To be fair, I've still only played like 5 games of GOATs in my entire life, because I still just don't see GOATs particularly often. The few times I do see GOATs, it's like the last round, both teams have a minute left, so one or both teams go, GOATs! And that's the only time I've seen it. And even then, only out of, like, 6 games. I've not seen a whole lot of GOATs. Basically, your goal is make tanks squishy. Because that's kind of Zenyatta's goal in life, generally speaking, is make people squishier. The problem is that, like, they have a lot of healing, so it can be an issue. Yeah, make the tank squishier is your #1 priority. I try watching pro players, but they honestly just seem to be positioning wherever they like, because they're in no danger and spamming damage into the enemy for free. Yeah, it's not exactly a super threatening comp for Zenyatta a lot of the time, unless like they're actually like playing GOATs well, you know? Then they kind of walk over you. Is there much more to Zen in this meta? Are there good general positioning rules that they are following that I can't see? I feel like I'm struggling to impact the match more than my counterpart right now, because I feel like anyone that can harmony their Rhyme, discord the enemy Rhyme, spam damage into a death ball. How do you make a difference? Well, you can aim better, for one thing. That's why they pay me the big bucks. I mean, that's kind of it, though. Yeah, is like, put discord on them, put harmony on yours, and throw orbs and do damage, basically. It's not a particularly threatening comp for Zenyatta, so you can just sit somewhere they can't get to you super easily, and nothing's gonna happen to you, pretty much. So it's... that, from my perspective, there isn't a whole lot to it as Zenyatta, no. That's more or less it. But I've still have not had much experience with goats, because I swear, no one's playing goats. Even though people talk about goats fucking endlessly, I still just don't see a whole lot of goats. Outside of, like, coordinated play, basically. That's the only place I've seen it, really, and a few times on ladder. How to become... Jonak? Jonak? I don't know. Whatever. The name... console silver border who just recently moved to PC. But now I want to move to the aim support role of mainly Zen and Ana. What are some techniques and tips that you guys would recommend, and keep in mind I'm a total noob, just specific to playing support in general. Keep as many people on your team between you and the bad men as physically possible, because then they have to go through more people to get to you. When you're playing Zenyatta and you use Transcendence, try to back up as Transcendence is ending, so you don't die the second that you come out of Transcendence, because ideally you survive afterwards. Don't use the Bio Grenade to heal people in between fights. Try to actually use it to heal people during fights, or get the anti-heal on people. Ideally both, but try not to use it just to heal somebody faster in between fights. Ana players love to do that one. It's a tragic waste of company resources. You can just shoot the dude a couple more times and you'll be full health if no fighting is happening. So try to use it during fights rather than between fights. Don't just throw the Trank out there randomly. Try to actually throw it at somebody with a purpose, because I see Ana players constantly just throw it out into, like, the general mass of the enemy team. Like, it'll hit somebody, maybe, and then if it does, they immediately get woken up because they were in the middle of the fight, so it didn't really amount to a whole lot. Try to use it with a little bit more purpose than that, rather than just throwing it out like, maybe it'll do something. Try to be a little bit more deliberate than that. It's got a very long cooldown, and Ana's cooldowns are very strong. Don't nano boost the Reinhardt if he's just standing there holding his shield up. Wait for Reinhardt to actually engage a fight and then nano boost him, rather than nano boosting him to try and make him engage a fight. Because that usually results in the Reinhardt doing something stupid, rather than actually picking a good fight. Those are about the main tips I can think of off the top of my head in a general sense. Try to abuse high ground, if at all possible, but that's just life, isn't it? Try to abuse high ground. Ana and Zenyatta like high ground. Try to be on high ground if you can. But if they have, like, divers, be careful about going on the high ground by yourself, because if you go up there as Zenyatta, and you're alone, and then Winston jumps on you, you die. So be careful in that situation. Let's see. Flats coaching Diamond Widowmaker how to still perform when you don't have top-tier aim. Is this a video? It's a video. Oh, look, that's exactly that by Flats. Hey, there you go. There's a video for you. 20 tips on Molten Core Guide. Hey, look, we got another video for you. Oh my goodness, content creation's out of control today, huh? So there you go. My Smurf accounts can climb higher than my main. This is a remarkably common story, that people do better on their Smurfs than on their main. I think it's almost entirely, mental, where they're less concerned about it. Like, basically they're less stressed about it because it's their Smurf, not their main, so they just kind of, like, play and do whatever, but when they're on their main, they're super anxious about it, and that leads to them playing worse. Let's see, but I have two ults that I've gotten to Masters multiple times, pretty easily when one-tricking Reaper. Why is that one account seems to be hard stuck? I know bad games happen in every elo to every person, but it feels like the more experienced an account is, the more likely it'll receive low-quality matches in my favor of the enemy teams. Why? No, I think it's entirely mental. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it is literally just people on their Smurfs, they're less concerned, less stressed, and that leads to them playing better than when they're playing on their main, basically. I don't think there's anything more to it than that. I think it's all psychological. At what point does it stop being your fault for a loss? So I've learned I am much better at DPS, soldier specifically, than I am at support, and I'm not good at tanks, so I've been playing to my strengths. At what point does our losing stop being my fault? I've started to notice my shortcomings. I mean... So, it's, elevator music was playing in my head, don't worry. So, if, like, multiple people on your team are just feeding, then, you know, you're gonna have a hard time, because it's hard to solo carry in Overwatch, but it is extremely easy to solo throw. So, like, if your Reinhardt's just charging in, constantly dying, so you're always playing, like, 5v6, and you're down your main tank always, then, like, it's gonna be hard for you to win. It's not impossible, but it's gonna get really hard, you know? If the enemy team is just playing really well, like, if it just feels like no matter what happens, like, your Mercy pokes her face out, she immediately gets killed because they just jump on her. Every single time. You know, there's only so much you can do about that. Like, the loss does stop being your fault fairly commonly in Overwatch, because there's so many ways for one person to single-handedly throw a game. It's a very teamwork-based game, so it's very hard to solo carry. And as soon as one aspect of the team starts falling apart, it tends to have this cascading domino effect where everybody starts doing badly as a result of this one cog failing to work correctly. The thing is that it's just never productive to look at it that way. Like, even if it is genuinely not your fault, which it will doubtlessly be sometimes. There are times where it was basically impossible for you to win that game, and it was not your fault. That happens. But that's not productive. So even if it genuinely isn't your fault, you should still look at it as if it was your fault. You should still go, well, what could I have done in this game to increase our chances of winning? And, you know, there are some worlds you just weren't going to win that game, unless, like, the hand of Jeff Kaplan himself reached down and blessed you, right? Like, that's life. But always, even if it genuinely isn't your fault, still, say it was your fault and think about what you could have done better instead. Because that's just more productive than the alternative. Because the alternative is not productive at all. Because as soon as you go to yourself, oh, well, there was nothing I could have done to win this match, it was out of my control, you've immediately just scrubbed that match from the record, and you don't learn anything from that match anymore, because you just writ it off, right? Like, wrote it off. English is fucked up. You just wrote it off, so you didn't learn anything from it. So that's just not productive. So don't do that, even if it's genuinely not your fault. Interesting SR dilemma. I play on 2 accounts very regularly, both around 2,300. My main currently and have a win rate of... And my alt I currently have... Yo, look, it's the exact same story we were just talking about. I don't know what is going on. It's all mental. All mental. Everything psychological. How can I carry better in low elo? So I'm playing for a few months out of quality, out of placement matches. I got a little dropped to around 2k SR. 1.8k. Things got worse, and now I'm at 1.6. I'm a filler because our team is always short of a healer or a tank. The biggest problem I've seen is that our DPS can never deal out damage. We usually end up inting over and over again without the rest of the team. As a tank, I can't do anything, and we're always outnumbered, and as a healer, I can't do anything with a Junkrat launch. Okay, so, the best thing you can do is pick a hero that's relatively easy to play, but can have a big impact all the same. My example is always Winston, as far as tanks go, because Winston is very easy to play, right? All you need to know is who to jump on, and that's kind of it. There isn't much else to it. You know... You need to know how to use your bubble as well, but it's basically jump in, use bubble, right? Like, don't put it down in choke points or anything like that. But, like, Winston's very easy to play. He has a big impact because he can just kill people. It's, like, guaranteed. You jump on that person and nobody helps him and he doesn't know how to react, you'll kill the guy. And people in low SR, they don't know what to do. When a Winston jumps on them, they panic. And nobody's gonna help them because we're in fucking bronze or silver, right? So, like, they're just on their own. So... if you're playing Winston, as long as you are just decent and know how to play Winston okay, just like passingly well, you can have a big impact in the game, because they won't know what to do. They'll panic and you'll kill a bunch of people. And it's basically impossible to fuck it up, right? Because people always say pick a DPS, hard carry on the DPS. That's awful advice to give to a low SR player. Because if they're in low SR, obviously they don't know how to hard carry a game, do they? So all that does is end up feeding into the cycle of everybody in low SR insta-locking a DPS saying they're going to hard carry themselves out of low SR. But they don't know how to do that, because if they knew how to do that, they wouldn't be in low SR. So people have fucked up low SR by trying to teach them that, basically, is my thinking on it. So pick a pretty easy-to-play hero that has a big impact. So like Winston, Diva, Roadhog. You don't even need to really worry about your comp that much. Like, honestly, don't feel like you have to pick Reinhardt because, oh, we need a shield tank or whatever in low SR. Like, yeah, you know, you like that, but in low SR, people don't know how to play their heroes correctly, so team comps don't function correctly anyway. So you don't need to worry about it that much, okay? Like, yeah, team comp does still matter. It doesn't become completely irrelevant. You can't just pick 6 DPS and expect it to go well. But, like, don't worry about it to the same level you would worry about it in a higher SR, right? Like, you want a tank, you want a healer, that's all you need, okay? So yeah, pick an easy-to-play hero. So, like, Winston, Diva, Roadhog, as far as tanks go. And, like, healers, like, don't even feel like you necessarily have to pick a main healer. Because, there's another thing, people are bad. Their DPS are not going to do that much damage. That means you don't need to do as much healing to keep pace with their DPS hurting your team. So, like, you don't need to pick a main healer necessarily in low SR. I still recommend Moira as one of the healers to pick in low SR because she's very easy to play. She outputs a huge amount of healing, and she can also damage. She puts out a large amount of healing. She can self-peel with the Orb and Fade, so you're independent. You don't need people to help you to stay alive. And you can still kill people, because Moira can do damage with, you know, right-click orbs and coalescence, right? So, Moira, I think, is the best healer you can pick in low SR, because she's just got all the makings of a good low SR hero, basically. Bridget's also good, because you can punish people for doing stupid shit, which is happening a lot in low SR. Again, people on the enemy team, their DPS are going to be bad, so they aren't going to be doing as much damage, so you don't need to worry about healing as much as you would in higher SR, because they aren't doing as much damage. Zenyatta's also good. It makes your team do more damage. You have Transcendence, which can cancel out ultimates, and ultimates, for the most part, don't really take a lot of skill to use. So if you can just say, like, if their Genji knows how to use Dragon Blade and that's it, and you use Transcendence, well, that Genji now knows how to do nothing, so it's okay. So yeah, try to pick, like, Winston, Diva, Roadhog for tanks, Moira, Bridget, or Zenyatta for healers, and just, like, and, like, if you're gonna go DPS, you want it to be an independent-ish DPS, basically. I think Soldier is the best one you can pick for low SR, because he requires close to 0 assistance to get things done. And you can just control high ground, really, in low SR, and, like, that's good enough. Soldier's great on high ground, and he doesn't need help to stay alive, right? Biotic Field makes him very hard to kill. He does, like, decent damage. He's got the burst damage for when the inevitable flanker comes to try and kill you. You can break barriers if they've got barriers, you know. All good stuff. I think Soldier's the best DPS you can pick in low SR. Very easy to play also. People will also be out of position, which makes Tac Visor way better. What other DPS would be good? Mei, punish people, make them tilted. You know, people tilt when they see Mei. Another DPS, because I want to go 3 in each of them, you know. So we gotta think of another DPS. It's got to be an easy to play DPS as well. Let's look at the list of heroes. That'll help. Let's look at the list of heroes. If I can actually fucking click on the window, Overwatch hero list. Well, we got DPS-Y. Junkrat. Junkrat. There we go. Let's try to pick those heroes. They're easy to play, they have big impacts, and people don't really know how to play against them correctly, which makes it way better. Like, people in fucking, like, gold don't know how to play against those heroes correctly, so if you're in bronze or silver, they really don't know what to do. So that's what I recommend for low elos. Do I play the role I love or the role I'm better at? Just play the role you want to play, my dude. Don't worry about it. Try to be able to play the other roles, so, like, at least, you know, a couple of heroes in each role so that you can fill if you have to. But, like, focus on the role that you like to play. Focus on that role. This is a video game. We're meant to be having fun. Play the role that you like. Play the heroes you like. It's a video game. Try to have a good time, damn it. Which heroes are main tanks, which are off tanks, and what exactly are their respective roles? Someone on the Discord server the other day fucking nailed this. Hold on one second. Who was it that said it? Because I want to, like, give correct credit. Alright, I found it. It was James. James on the Discord server fucking nailed the description of an off-tank versus a main tank. Main tank makes space, off-tank secures it. That's, like, the best, most succinct description I've ever seen. So, there you go. So, the main tanks are, well, D.Va is obviously an off-tank, yeah. It's also, like, main tanks, the off-tanks usually do more damage and have more utility attached to them than the main tank necessarily does. Like, if you think about it, right, like, you're more afraid of Roadhog individually than you are of Reinhardt, right? But Roadhog isn't gonna make space in the same way Reinhardt does, right? Roadhog makes it more difficult to go into that space, but Reinhardt's the one that actually made the space, because he's the one that held the shield up and pushed W, you know? So the main tanks are Reinhardt, Orisa, and Winston. And then the off-tanks is everybody else, basically. Hammond is a main tank. Like, 3 asterisks is attached to that one. If you can play Hammond really well, and if your team knows how to play with Hammond, and you have some degree of coordination. So as you can see, there's a lot of conditions we had to attach to that one, so Hammond is only very sometimes a main tank outside of coordinated play or pro play. So for the latter, the main tanks are Reinhardt, Winston, and Orisa. And then the off-tanks are everybody else. So it's a matter of, like, the main tanks have the most presence, right? They have a sort of commanding presence. You can't really ignore Reinhardt when he's walking into your team, right? I've been in situations where I've ignored a D.Va. I've never really been in a situation where I could completely ignore a Reinhardt, right? So yeah, they're the ones that make the space, and then the off-tanks are the ones that secure it, because basically they clean it up. They clean up the rest of the mess that the off-tank made, in a lot of ways. And should I consider the Reinhardt and Orisa main tanks to their roles as an anchor for the team? I keep seeing Roadhog referred to as an off-tank, even though I would have probably put him in the main tank pool due to the... I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Due to the sheer amount of damage he can absorb with his self-heal. The thing is that Roadhog can tank a lot of damage for himself. He can't tank damage for other people, right? Reinhardt, he blocks for the whole team. There's this giant rectangle that's blocking damage in front of your whole team. And so he can escort the team into position, right? So he walks forward, enemy team walks back, your team is not getting hurt, Reinhardt made the mistake. Now imagine Roadhog trying to do that. Alright, I walk up in front of the gate in front of Eichenwald, and they shoot me, I try to hook someone, alright, there's a Reinhardt there, that didn't go very well. Alright, it's okay, self-heal, walk forward. Oh, I died. Oh, and where's everybody else? Oh, they're hiding behind that wall back there because there's nothing to block damage for them out here, right? It's not because of the amount of damage they can take, it's the amount of the damage they prevent their teammates from taking, right? Like, Zarya can not prevent her team from taking a lot of damage because her bubbles are pretty weak. and they have a short duration with a long cooldown. So she can't block a lot of damage for her team, but she does a lot of damage when she's high charge, and Graviton is one of the best utility ultimates in the entire game, right? So she's very squarely an off-tank. D.Va, she can't block damage to the same extent that, like, Reinhardt or Orisa can, and she doesn't demand the same kind of attention that Winston does, right? But she has a lot of utility. So Defense Matrix is one of the best defensive cooldowns in the entire game. Her ultimate is very good at zoning. She does a lot of burst damage. She has very high mobility. She has very minor crowd control and a knockback. So she has a lot of utility, but she can't block damage to the same level. So she's like the epitome of an off-tank, right? She does a little bit of all of it. Roadhog, he's got utility because he's got hard crowd control, he does a lot of damage, and he has one of the best defensive ultimates in the game. It basically calls off the entire fight, right? Reinhardt, however, big shield, very commanding presence, very scary ultimate. You have to pay attention to Reinhardt, and he stops his whole team from taking damage. Winston, he jumps in on somebody on your backline, you have to stop the Winston or he's gonna kill the person he jumped on, right? You have to help the person that got jumped on. If you can't just ignore Winston, because he is going to kill the people that he's jumped on. So he doesn't main tank in the same way Reinhardt does, because he's not blocking damage with his shield, right? He's absorbing a lot of aggro and attention from a lot of enemy team. He's a very disruptive presence. If you're wondering, you're probably like, well, D.Va's also very disruptive, so why is she not disruptive to the same way that Winston is? And the reason is, D.Va's easier to deal with when she jumps on people, right? Because with Winston jumps in, puts the bubble down, starts dancing her in and out of the bubble, suddenly it becomes rather annoying to kill Winston, right? So, whereas D.Va, her defensive thing is Defense Matrix, which she can only have in front of her for a very short period of time. So, like, it's only blocking a small window for a limited period of time, and she can't be shooting at the same time. You can use the missiles, but you can't be shooting at the same time. And, you know, you've got, like, a very small window of time where it's up. Whereas Winston's bubble, full 360-degree protection, stops crowd control from all those directions. People have to actually come to you to deal damage or break the bubble first, right? So, it's just easier to deal with D.Va when she jumps in compared to Winston. And if Winston's got Primal Rage, then that's even more on top of that D.Va doesn't have, right? So that's why he's a main tank, but D.Va isn't, even though they do similar things, basically. And Orisa, I've always been iffy on really considering Orisa a main tank, personally, because she doesn't really have the same kind of presence the other two main tanks do. She, like, really needs other people to help her with this one, but to a lesser extent than someone like Hammond does, right? So, if you've got, like, Orisa, Roadhog, then it becomes very perilous to approach them, right? Especially, and that's not even counting whatever DPS they have with them at the same time. So, Orisa, she's very supportive of her teammate. She's has great longevity on her shield because it's just cooldown. You push the button, it's full health again, right? She can't move it around as freely, but it has great sustain. And she actually gets to, like, do damage, right? And then supportive ultimate. So, she does make space for her team, but, like, she requires some assistance from her teammates, because as soon as they get on top of Orisa, she can't really do a lot about it, whereas the other two main tanks can. So, she requires a little bit more assistance than the other ones, but she, you know, she got crowd control, the bubble, not the bubble, the barrier. It's not a bubble, that's what Winston's got. And then she gets to do damage in the air, and, like, you know, the Reinhardt's trying to walk at you from really far away. You're shooting at him the whole time. Roadhog's shooting at him. Whatever DPS you've got, probably fucking McCree and Hanzo or something like that. They're doing damage to the shield. So it makes it harder for the other team to approach you. So, you know, if they can't get to you, it's not an issue. It's if they manage to get to you that it becomes an issue for Orisa. So she's a little bit more conditional than the other two. But that's how it goes. So, yeah, anyway, James on the Discord got it. Main tank, make space. Off tank, secure space. There you go. That's the one. That was really long-winded, rambling, and I don't think it came out the other end being particularly coherent. But hey, we got there in the end, and that's all that matters. So, now we spent like 20 minutes on that one. Sim teleporter tips and just sim tips in general. Typically a support man. So, I recently started playing Symmetra for both flanker warnings and extra damage, and team fights on point, my wall for stalling or splitting in points. And I have no clue what to do with Sim's teleporter. I understand what it does, but it feels like it's better for me to stick with my team and use it to solo flanking. Okay, so the most aggravating use I've ever seen from Symmetra players using their teleporter is basically when they use it to, like, threaten you from 2 places at once. Because someone once described it as being Tracer-esque, how you can put it somewhere, go through it, basically blinking, and then you go through with a charged up orb, you throw it at them from this other angle that they weren't expecting you to throw it at, then you throw some turrets at them as well from this other weird angle, and then they took a bunch of damage, right? So, like that, you can use it to reposition really quickly, so there's obviously that, but, like, the most that's the best use I've seen of the teleporter from Symmetra players, is basically using it to be aggressive, but mostly just through, like, big brain. They won't expect the damage to come from this direction plays. Not really flanking. Like, I'm not saying, like, teleport behind them and then just, like, walk up behind them with a beam and try to drill them to death. Like, I'm not saying that kind of thing. I'm saying, like, let's draw, shall we? I'm saying, like, enemy teams, like, here, we're here, like, our team is over here, so I teleport over here, or, like, over here, still far away from them, and then, like, so I come through, I teleport out here, throw an orb at them, they're, like, looking over that way, because that's where most of my team is, but I'm suddenly at the side of them now, throwing shit at them, and they don't like that. And then if they try to stop me, I just teleport back to my team, and I'm completely safe. So you basically use it to pressure them from another angle, and it's relatively safe to do, as long as you get the fuck out when you need to, right? That's, like, the best use I've seen of Symmetra's teleporter, so I recommend using it like that. It's very aggravating if done well, because it's just like, well, she's gone now. I tried to kill her, and she just fucking left, so I guess she got away with it scot-free, didn't she? Upsettingly enough. What burst damage does it take to kill sleeping 200 and 250 health targets? Well, Anna herself can kill a 200 health target if you do the combo, right? But do you mean for, like, other people? Generally, I'm playing with a Zen. I let him burst down and he don't interfere. Did I try and time a shot to help them burst down 250 health, specifically a Doom with an ult? I tried to test with a buddy in a custom game, but the Anna bot wouldn't sleep me. I think 2 volley melee with Discord should take out his Doom with ult, but it got me thinking beyond Zen to what other heroes I can rely on to solo a target for me. So who else could solo them? Because, yeah, Doom should be able to. Tell everyone else to leave them alone for you. It's 47 per orb, times 5 orbs equals, times 2 for a headshot bonus, 470 damage. So yeah, he kills basically fucking everyone. So Zen's got it under lockdown. Who else can do it? Genji should be able to, right? If you do the fan into the head and they all hit, I think that should... And then you'd probably have to melee dash as well, but that should definitely kill the person. Should definitely is an excellent way to phrase that, isn't it? Probably, maybe, sometimes, always works. Yeah, Genji should be able to do it. McCree should be able to do it because he can do headshot, flashbang, headshot. I don't think that's a big enough gap for them to get out. I actually have to test that one, which I'm obviously not going to do right now because I'm not that professional. But I think McCree can do it. Who else could do it? Like by themselves. Roadhog could do it. Shoot, hook, shoot. Like headshot, shoot, hook, shoot, melee. That should kill the dude. That might be it. Obviously, Reinhardt can pin the guy, you know. Yeah, I think that's it for the people that could do it solo. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. I'm not going to open the list again because I'm too lazy, basically. Yeah, I think that's everybody who could do it solo. Especially for 250 health. You can also nano to secure a big HP sleep. Yeah. Nanoed the Widow. Oh, Widow! Widow and Hanzo. Right, yeah, they're the ones. They're the ones. Ashe actually wouldn't be able to by herself. Yeah, Widow Hanzo, of course. Of course, of course. I knew I was forgetting someone. Only the most fucking obvious ones, right? Yeah, into the head dash. Melee also, you know, get that in there. Would Reaper be able to do it? I think that would depend on the target. Like, they need to have a big enough head model, really, for Reaper, I think. He could probably do it. Mine can charge, D.Va can missiles. No, D.Va definitely wouldn't work. They'd wake up way too soon. Especially if it's like Doomfist with ult, right? Like, he's slapping that Q key. That would not work. Yeah, so those are the solo boys. Those are the boys that can do it solo. Let's see what else we got. Don't be afraid to take a break away from the game. Would like to learn Torbjorn. About 3 months now, I quit when Torb got his rework and Goats was rising up. I decided to come back recently and try the new Turbo for giggles, and I really enjoyed playing as him. But I realized that I don't know how to really use him very well. Does anyone have any general tips or advice for him? Let's see what the comments have got on this one, because I haven't really got, like, I haven't got Torbjorn super locked down in my mind right now. Everything is, regarding your turret, everything is the same, just no placements and whatnot. I like to use that for close range battles and use its secondary fire. It's also a good way to survive if you're low health. Finally, is all they use it for crowd control, just to separate the enemy team. Or if they're trying to, yeah, it's a great zoning ultimate. I make guides on Torbjorn only on my YouTube. Hey, oh, it's the boy we looked at earlier. I remember this name. Yeah. Pyro SSBM, your Torbjorn sensei. There you go. That guy probably knows way more than me about Torbjorn. I have not invested a huge amount of time into learning Torbjorn after his rework, you know. I'm busy trying to figure out how to play Ashe even decently well still. So, you know, one day I'll figure that one out. It's hard, okay? I've only played Moira, Bridget, and Reinhardt for a really long time. It's gonna take a while to learn how to click on the men properly. I'm also lazy and haven't been playing as much as I could. Zen should have different color icons when using Orb of Harmony to heal teammates. What do you mean? Oh, for, like, the different categories? Ah, fuck that shit. I'm not with that. Question regarding hero accuracy statistics. Does the accuracy of your secondary fire affect the overall statistics? I don't think so. Well, it probably does for, like, Torbjorn, right? And Roadhog. Like, that's gotta count. Like, someone like Soldier, the rockets shouldn't count. But it might. I actually don't know. I've never really thought about it, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, with someone like Torbjorn or Roadhog, the alt fire has to count. It has to. But, like, someone like Soldier, I don't know. I don't know if Helix Rocket counts or not. My gut tells me no, it doesn't, but I'm actually not sure. How to avoid getting kicked for inactivity? Don't be AFK. So one guy stayed and he didn't shoot anyone. I got the notification for getting kicked just as the game was about to end. What can I do to prevent it? Just move around? Like, shoot your gun a few times? You know, don't just stand in one spot, basically. Like, move around and do stuff. Anyone have some tips for Bridget? My main account is Master, and I would like to play Bridget there. But I always get destroyed. For example, the Bridget heals come from hitting enemies, and therefore you need to be on the front line with your tanks. Or you can land whip shot. But you also need to protect the healers on your team. So how do you keep that balance? The biggest thing is you gotta look at the enemy team comp, and you gotta say, what can threaten my backline? And you play around that knowledge, basically. So if you look at the enemy team and you see they have a bunch of divers or flankers, then you just stick with your backline as much as possible, pretty much, because they're gonna get dove or flanked by someone. But if you look at the enemy team and you see, like, only one diver, or only one flanker, or none, yeah, you might see none, then you can just go frontline. and like, brawl with people. If they've got, like, one, then you have to keep an eye out for them, but, like, if they've only got one or even just two people, that will give you enough breathing room to go in front line with your team, as long as you're paying attention to where the flankers and divers are, so you can go back to help the backline if they need it, right? But it's mostly, like, you gotta look at their team comp, and you gotta eyeball, and you gotta, like, alright, so how much do I need to sit with my team versus that comp, right? And you play it like that. If you really don't know one way or the other, or, like, the enemy team have been, like, playing weird or something, then just kind of toe the line and, like, split the difference. Stay kind of close to the front line, but, like, far enough back that you can get to the back line quickly if you have to. But it mostly comes down to, like, what the enemy team comp has got. If they've only got a couple flankers and divers, you know, you can, as long as you're keeping track of them, you can go brawl. If they've got a lot, then maybe just consider sitting with your backline the whole time. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. It really does vary a lot, team comp to team comp, how much you need to sit with your backline. So there you go. How to rank up. I was a mid-gold Diva main, Moira main, but I dropped down to silver due to some aspects I can't figure out. Could I please have some tips on these heroes, or just tips how to rank up in general? So I already gave you some tips in general. Two of the, like, these are actually all heroes that I did recommend playing, though. So Diva is really good at bursting people to death, especially if they're out of position, so, which they'll be in lower SRs. So try to find people who are off by themselves. You'll probably be able to find somebody. Or, not even necessarily by themselves, but just kind of, like, a little bit away from their team, right? Like, far enough away that they won't just, like, turn and start hitting you, even if they even do that in low SR, right? And just, like, punish people for being out of position. Diva does a lot of burst damage. It's really easy to just, like, dive on somebody and kill them as Diva, because you fly at them, you got the missiles going, you're left clicking them, then you hit them physically with your body and you melee them, and that basically kills most 200 HP heroes. You might have to do a little bit of follow-up damage to finish them off, depending on how many shots you got to land while you were going in, but, like, that pretty much kills the 200 health heroes. So just focus on, like, finding people who are by themselves and kill that fucker. And, you know, eat ultimates. Classic stuff. Mei, again, really good at punishing people for doing stupid shit. She's also really good at punishing flankers and divers, especially when they don't know what they're doing. And you're very likely to find those people in low SR. So, you know, if they've got flankers and divers, just bully the fuck out of those people. Otherwise, you can, like, honestly, like, the enemy team are going to be so bad at killing you, and they're going to panic so badly when you start freezing them. You could play mad aggressively as Mei in low SR, and you'll get away with it. That will, you know, that'll come back to bite you later on if you keep trying to do it as you climb, but, like, low SR, you can do some crazy aggressive shit on Mei, and they will not punish you for it. So try and split up, like, as much of the team as possible. Punish people for being out of position. You know, that business. And then Moira, you are really good at keeping people alive, and you can do damage, right? Throw orbs at people, build coalescence, use coalescence, kill people, make sure your team doesn't die. You know, you don't really have to do anything special as Moira. Like, you basically just play Moira as you normally would, right? And that's how I normally would anyway, which is I'm trying to do as much damage as possible still. Which you should be doing if you're playing a support. You should still be trying to do as much damage physically as you can do while healing your teammates. Obviously, healing takes #1 priority. You're playing a healer, but you should still be trying to do as much damage as possible at the same time. And that's what I got for you there. What other character should I learn to be helpful to my team? I mostly play Ana, Zen, Bridge. But I'm not sure where I'd fit in a team environment. It doesn't seem to be a main healer or off-healer hero pool, so I was wondering which other support would be best to learn. Lucio would be... Well, Moira's, like... The thing is with Moira is... Moira is basically never the best decision you can make, but she'll also never be the worst decision you can make. She is extremely jack of all trades, master of none. Which is also why she's, like, not as good as the other healers are, really, because, like, someone like Ana and Mercy, you know, Zen, they all have very clearly defined strengths and very clearly defined weaknesses. They're very bad at doing some things, but they have something they are excellent at doing. Moira doesn't really have anything she excels at. She's not terrible at anything, but she isn't amazing at anything either. So, you know, Moira's basically just blanketly always okay. Lucio is probably the better one of the two. Mercy's also fine, but, like, I think Ana is just basically blanketly better than Mercy. Unless you have a really Mercy synergy team, like Widowmaker, Pharah, Orisa, pretty much, like, stuff like that. Yeah, Lucio would be the better one to learn, really, than Moira would be, honestly. Because, like, Ana's pretty much, hands down, the best main healer in the game right now. Would Tor be better with his old Molten Core, level 3 Tult? No, I think the Lava is great. It's just kind of a little... I think people struggle to realize how to use it correctly, but I think it's a really strong ultimate, especially if used well. It's, like, fucking terrible if used in the right situation. It's fucking terrible for the enemy team if you use it in the right situation. I think his current ultimate's fine. Good Zen, terrible Ana. Hey guys, I'm a new support. And I win rate is 70, my win Zen, 80%, shit. I feel like I could reach mid-GM by one-tricking Zen, but I don't want to be known as a one-trick. The thing is with, like, you know, Ana has a lot of cooldown usage, basically. You know, they both obviously have an aim requirement, yeah. But, like, Ana, you have to know how to use her cooldowns correctly. Which is a fairly unique skill in Overwatch, honestly. There aren't that many heroes that their main indicator of success is honestly cooldown usage. Like, Roadhog is up there with them. Like, Ana is by far the most cooldown-dependent hero in the game, in my opinion. So, like, if you're struggling on Ana, you're probably not using the Trank and Grenade properly. Because they're really, really strong cooldowns, but you can't just kind of use them willy-nilly, you know, you need to actually know how to use them properly. Very basic question, what gives ult charge? Things I'm sure give ult charge. Providing healing, including to yourself, damage, time passing. Unsure of passive self-healed of the shield? No, doesn't. Giving armor? Giving armor doesn't, right? No, giving armor I don't think gives ult charge. I'm actually not sure about it. I've fucking played a lot of Bridget, and I'm actually not sure if that's true or not. I don't think so. I don't think giving armor gives ult charge. Self-heal from immersive passive ability. Ooh, I'm not ooh, that's a good question. Well, no, I don't think so. Because I think it needs to be an active effect, essentially. Like, Lucio gets ult charge from healing himself because it's his aura. Roadhog gets healing from self-healing because it's his take a breather. I don't think Mercy's passive gives ult charge. If so, I'm a bit shocked that no utility gives charge. Yeah, you basically, like, have to interact with something. Very little utility does. Which I think kind of sucks. Like, if you, like, stun somebody, I think that should give you some ult charge, to be honest with you. I'm really trying to think about the armor one right now. Like, Mercy, I'm, like, 80% sure is no, it doesn't. I don't know why I'm so not sure about this. And this is one of those questions where I was sure the answer was no, but as soon as I actually thought about it, I was like, wait, does it? The thing is, as well, I'm trying to think about Bridget, which is also a heal at the same time, isn't it? So, because obviously Rally doesn't count, because that's your ultimate. No, I'm sure I've never seen, like, Torbjorn give somebody an armor pack and get ult charge for it. No, I'm sure giving armor doesn't. I'm sure. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure. Limit FPS. Quick question, should I limit FPS to some number? Any benefits? Not using V-Shing. It doesn't really matter. Like, even if you, like, you have more input frames, technically, if your frame rate's really high, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like you're going to see the difference, right? I don't think there's any kind of drawback to having your FPS that high. I'm not really a tech guy, I could be wrong, but I don't think it matters one way or the other. What is your best crosshair as D.Va, and why do you prefer it? I just like the green dot. That's what I like. Green dot contrasts the most to me on most backgrounds, but I'm also colorblind, so that might just be me. And basically I just like the dot because it has so very little extra visual noise attached to it, right? It's very precise. Whereas some of the crosshairs I find kind of distracting, which is not good when especially when you're trying to aim quite specifically on someone like Ashe, right? So that's 2 pages. All the questions. We've been going for almost an hour. Great job, team. We did it. Alright, I think most of that was that one ambling question about main tanks and off tanks, which I've definitely answered before and didn't take like 50 years to do. But hey, what can you do, right? So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. And I hope you found the video helpful.